Hello all summoners and welcome back to AFK Arena, and today we're going to talk about the second of the new Draconis poster children here, that being GWYNETH. Now GWYNETH is the interesting one lore-wise, because of course she started out as a basic human person, and now she went to dragon person. Which is kind of funny, because, of course, you've had all the awakened characters going on right now, which are basically, for the most part, upgraded variants. Sometimes the awakened characters are originals, but mostly, like, upgraded variants of already existing characters. This one just said, hold my arrows, I'm gonna skip that and go straight to dragon. And you know what? It's a pretty nice glow up. Let's not deny that here. So let's see what we have. Not unlike her previous iteration, she is a ranger character, so just kind of keep that in mind if you're building up the elder tree for her. And let's see what we have here. First of all, her main ultimate skill here, Crystal Breath. GWYNETH shifts form into a freaking awesome looking dragon, knocking down surrounding enemies and dealing damage for 200% of her attack rating. In Scale Manifest, she flies over the friendly half of the battlefield, unleashing a fiery breath that deals 5 hits of dragon speed damage for 200% of her attack rating, and triggering a crystallization storm that emanates from the center of the battlefield and crystallizes all enemies. While crystallized, enemies are immobilized and their haste is reduced by 40 points for 3 seconds. During the crystallization storm, crystals cover the battlefield, slowing the movement speed of all entities by 25%. Enemies that touch the crystals, it keeps going, my god. Enemies that touch the crystals erupt them, inflicting damage for 180% of her attack rating on any nearby enemies and crystallizing them. Each subsequent crystallization storm resets the crystals and increases damage dealt by their eruptions by 20%. Only one hero in your formation can shift forms at any time. Then level 2, she gains 400 energy at the start of battles. And for level 3, for 6 seconds after triggering a crystal storm, the normal attacks of allies crystallize enemies and deal additional damage equal to 160% of GWYNETH's attack rating. So there's a lot going on here. First of all, we have damage. I mean, damage is always a good thing, and a pretty healthy bit, judging by what I'm looking at here. I'm not great at calculating damage. I think some people noticed that in my Hilda video. I am not that good, and I've been a little out of AFK Arena for a while, so my radar of what is considered good damage is not perfect, but it seems pretty good. And then basically she has freeze upgraded, where her enemies are immobilized and get their haste absolutely nuked for a few seconds. And then, as if that wasn't enough, once you get to that level 3, even her allies can just straight up crystallize enemies. Again, basically that upgraded version of freeze, pretty much, if I'm not mistaken. Then she puts crystals all over the place that explode. And we like exploding crystals, because exploding crystals hurt. And we're a big fan of causing pain to the enemy. Next here, we're going to take a look at her passive Shattering Arrows. Triggers once every 10 seconds, transforming normal attacks into Shattering Arrows. GWYNETH focuses and fires arrows that pierce enemies, knocking them back along the way and dealing damage for 330% of her attack rating. If an arrow passes through any crystal, it detonates the nearest crystal, supercharging the arrow with crystal power, which enhances its impact and causes enemies hit to become crystallized. This is practically just a mini version of her ultimate, where if her arrow hits one of those crystals, it goes ahead and blows it up and can crystallize enemies. Then damage is increased to 390%. Each time the shattering arrows hit an enemy, the cooldown time is reduced by 20%. And then each time shattering arrows hit an enemy, GWYNETH's normal attack damage is increased by 20% for the following 5 seconds, can be stacked up to 5 times. So basically, massive attack boost there on that one. And just more crystallization, more damage, crazy powerful arrows. Never a bad thing. And it seems like basically the more enemies you hit with the shattering arrows, the more often you get to use the shattering arrows. It just works very well. It's just a lot of fun. Next, we have another passive, Suppressing Fire. Gwyneth's normal attacks become 2-hit combos that prioritize the same enemy. Each arrow inflicts damage for 170% of Gwyneth's attack rating, and upon impact, the arrows explode, dealing damage for 150% of Gwyneth's attack rating to nearby enemies and stunning them. So as if it wasn't enough for her to have crystallizing, she also just has straight up stuns. While Gwyneth's haste or attack speed won't affect her attack frequency or focusing speed, they do enhance her attack rating. So I guess basically, instead of speeding her up, haste and attack speed will just make her stronger, which is kind of a neat little thing. Every point of haste increases her attack rating by 0.5%, while each point of attack speed increases it by 1%. And then the next 2 levels increase the damage, and at level 4 here, the attack rating boost gets increased to 0.8% and 1.6% respectively. Finally, we have one more passive. When Gwyneth receives damage from intelligence-based enemies, she becomes immune to that damage, and for the following 6 seconds, damage from intelligence-based enemies is reduced by 80%. This effect can be triggered up to 1 time every 12 seconds. Gwyneth creates a realm of absolution around her, reducing damage from intelligence-based enemies to allies within the realm by 30%. That goes up to 40% at level 3, and then at level 4, reduces the interval for triggering the effect to 9 seconds. Gwyneth also gains immunity and damage reduction when non-intelligence enemies within the realm deal damage to her. So this is an interesting one. What basically seems to be happening here is every 12 seconds, if basically an intelligence hero hits her, usually a mage, sometimes a support character, that hit will not do damage, and basically, I'm assuming this only affects her, but if she gets hit by any intelligence-based enemies, that damage just takes a freaking nosedive down to 80%. And that can happen for 6 seconds. And then this Realm of Absolution can effectively grant all allies a damage reduction from intelligence-based heroes by that 30%. And then if you do get to level 4, the 12-second cooldown is reduced to 9 seconds. And Gwyneth gets a nice little boost against any enemy as long as they are within that Realm of Absolution. If I'm not mistaken, I think that just kind of covers her side of the battlefield, but I could be wrong about that one. Take a look at her engravings here. It applies to the Shattering Arrows, giving the normal attack rating at level 30 for engraving, and at level 60 for engraving, she gets that triggering effect down to 9 seconds. That 9-second one is especially going to be very helpful. Not so much if she's not actually fighting intelligence heroes, but there's a lot of intelligence heroes in the game. I think that'll trigger more often than not. Now, taking a look at her signature, which is called a Gemstone Longbow, which is freaking cool. When it activates hero, arrows fired by suppression fire can also detonate crystals and be imbued with crystal power. Just to remind you, that is this 2-hit normal attack combo. Basically you can turn suppressing fire into the Shattering Arrows feature, just not so much with the extra damage, but you can blow up the crystals and you can crystallize enemies. The farther Gwyneth is from enemies, the higher the damage dealt by her normal attacks, up to a maximum 30%, 35%. So you basically want her to be in the back line with some tanks keeping the enemies away from her. I mean, honestly, she's a bow character. That's pretty self-explanatory. When there are no enemies nearby, Gwyneth gains 15 points of physical pierce, 20 points of insight, and 75 points of accuracy. Making sure you're doing damage and making sure those crystallizations are sticking. Never a bad thing. When a normal attack crits, each point of difference between her crit rating and the target's crit block rate increases the damage of that hit by 0.6%. That's kind of a weird one, honestly. I'd be lying if I said I fully understood it, where it's like, it matters that her crit rate is high, and that the enemy's crit block rate is low. I mean, it's a damage boost. Just a really weird one in my opinion. I don't quite understand that one. And then her level 40, if you do get that high, basically cranks up her level 20 to the max. 30 points of physical pierce, 40 points of insight, and 150 points of accuracy. So you definitely want to get to at least 20. 20 is pretty easy stopping point there. I mean, I'm going to get her to 40 just because I think it's cool. But I don't think it's necessary to go here. I mean, it's a damage boost for sure, but I don't think it's too crazy if there's other things you're using your resources on. If there's not, though, then hey, go for it. And then her furniture here. Each time an enemy is crystallized, her crit rating increases by 2 points, and her crit damage application increases by 2 points up to 15 times. So this does kind of play with her signature weapon, kind of making that 30 a little easier. And then enemies in a crystallized state take 40% increased damage, and if it's Dragon Speak damage, the damage is amplified to 60%. So in addition to basically not being able to move, they also just get slammed and jammed here with a ton of extra damage at Furniture 9. I think her kit is awesome. It certainly seems powerful. Now, I am not that far along in the campaign compared to other people. I've slacked pretty good, but I can win this fight here. Even though this team is pretty terrible, I mean, I threw it in there just for the heck of it. This team is pretty terrible, and yet I can still win the fight with a little bit of luck. That didn't happen. It just takes a couple tries here, but she can basically just carry the whole team, because why the frick not? Especially when you have to cough up 5 freaking teams, which I know is old hat, but like I said, I've slacked here, okay, so I don't have 5 teams that are really all that good. Oh, come on. Come on, we rehearsed this. We've done this before now. Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. We literally rehearsed this. Like I said, this team is not good for her at all. But that's kind of the point, actually. Just to show that she is just functional even in bad situations. We can do this. I believe in you. I believe. Nope. I believe slightly less. Come on. I swear we've done this before. I don't claim to be an expert on the game. I'm just making content. Because I like it. Come on. Come on, Gwyneth. She basically did, because it's funny, because original Gwyneth has status effects like stunning the enemy and stuff. So this really is just original Gwyneth, but cranked up to the max. Which I do appreciate from a thematic point. And the design is peak. The design is incredible. Oh, maybe. There she goes. Freaking amazing animation. Crystallize with the enemies. Yeah, okay, they're screwed now. They are toast now. I need to actually set that animation to only go once, but that's okay. And yep, almost all the damage came from her. Even in that truly terrible team, she works just fine. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. I think she's great. But yeah, the drawback, of course, is that she is highly premium. I wailed a little bit and did get her up to 1 star so I could engrave her. But she is for sure a premium character. If you're going for raw value, Hildwyn is much easier to build. According to the community, he's not quite as good as he could be, but since he is so free to play, I suppose it is to be a bit expected, whereas Gwyneth is the premium character. But that is all we have for today. Let me know down in the comments below if you have Gwyneth or if you've been using her. I am really hoping that we do get some more dragon characters in the future, because I think they're one of the coolest factions in the game. I mean, my favorite faction is the Hypogeans, but Draconis might be beating them because dragons. I mean, dragons are cool. Enough said. They're just freaking cool. So yeah, that is all we have for today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of the video. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and we shall see you next time. Have a good one.